All right. Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Detox here at the NIC. My name is Numair Shahzada and I'm the marketing manager at the National Incubation Center, Pakistan. And it is my pleasure to have with us today Ehtisham Hussain, who is the co-founder DigiDeaf. He was previously a community manager at DevTalk, and he's also a sign language interpreter. What an interesting area to be working in at the Sham. Really excited to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I feel honored to be invited into a podcast, especially the National Incubation Center. Really, it's a great place for founders to get together and work. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're working on some really meaningful stuff. I mean, we do have a community of people who are differently able.
Exactly.
Pakistan has a deaf community, and you can share maybe some numbers around what the deaf community looks like. But before we get into talking about DigiDeaf and about the needs of the deaf community in Pakistan, I'd love to hear a little bit about Ehtisham, the person behind
All
DigiDeaf,
right.
and the kind of work. What led to this point?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So ever since my childhood, मेरा यही था कि solving problems. When I was little, all I had was me, myself, and some toys, right? So I would just break up toys, उसमें से चीज़ें निकाल के अपने पास रख लेता था. And I have this huge place where I could just put, electronic things and attach करके कभी car बना दिया and all that. So really, and then this was in me that I have to, solving problems would like give me some kind of pleasure or something like that. So and I had my sister is deaf and mute, and we've been like great friends since our childhood. She used to come to from the school and teach me sign language and really helping her out, communicate with her friends and neighbors, and it was all so later when I was in 10th grade, I said to myself, well, what do I want to do? I got to do something because I felt like education wasn't doing what I wanted to, right? So I thought, maybe I should start something that would, you know, let me achieve my goals and all that. So I thought about it, and then I thought that, well, my sister's deaf, right? She has a problem that she cannot communicate with hearing friends, right? So, and I thought maybe there are a lot of people who are going through the same thing. And when I looked in the community, in deaf community in the Pakistan, I saw that they have like, well, of course, we've seen everything. We've seen as a family saw what the challenges deaf people are facing in Pakistan, coming from education, communication. People are ignoring them. Even their own family is not supporting just because they're deaf. They would send their other normal children to school, but not the deaf, thinking that because it's useless to send them to school because they cannot earn later on. So all these challenges, when I saw into the deaf community, I was like, man, this is not right, right? It doesn't have to be this way. So, well, it was in something in my head, but then I had school as well. So, anyways, in 11th grade, I thought, it's too much, well, because the books and the education, everything, is just so with schools. I always had a conflict with all my teachers. Although I was very respectful and I was a brilliant kid, I used to get A's mostly, but I would write everything on my own. Like I wouldn't do ratta, ratte se mujhe bahut nafrat thi. Even I was used to have debates with my teachers that why, why, right? Why are we repeating the same thing over and over again? So at 11th grade, I was like, I should start something, and then I got into this interpretation. So I started giving the deaf people who are facing challenges my number, telling that if they need interpretation at any time, wherever they go, whether it's a hospital, they're in a problem, they go to a hospital, want to explain the problem to the doctor, they can call me. They could go call me whenever they go to an interview, job interview, or anywhere, right? So started out like that, and then later on, one of the service providers, sign language service providers. So they contacted me and they said like, we want to take you on board with us because you're already doing interpretation. So I joined DevTalk as a sign language interpreter. It was part time at that time, but after my 12th grade, I started full time with them. And then I got into because I had more PR in the deaf community, so they gave me this role of community, community managing. So I did events, I gathered deaf people, did trainings and whatnot to build to develop this community, deaf community. And then with the DigiDeaf, um, so uh, basically, DigiDeaf was the idea of my sister, my deaf sister, right? Since she went through all the challenges, so she was like, "No, I got to make sure that if anybody else, every other deaf children who are like the next generation, must not face the same challenge that I'm facing." So we sat down, we discussed, we made this idea on how we're gonna work. So it was all uh, at the end we did a research, and at the end we found a solution that the biggest problem that deaf community in Pakistan have is actually communication. Sorry, actually education. Yeah, education and communication. You see, in a society like Pakistan, well, there are a lot of people who like support their deaf and differently able children, right? It's no doubt in that. But when you look into remote areas, so वहाँ पे parents का अपने बच्चों के साथ ये expectation होती है that they would, at some point give us earning and support the family, right? So this is the general concept, mostly not the general, but it's like mostly यही पाया जाता है. So but when they see that their deaf children cannot like earn, so they wouldn't want them, they wouldn't want them to be educated. And plus there are, like, I would say, no educational institution in Pakistan which is like doing, you know perfect grooming, except few. Yeah, deaf reach is doing good work. Yeah, we gotta appreciate them because they've been doing it for too much long, and but they're in the main cities only, Karachi, Lahore, and all that. Even they're not in Islamabad. So yeah. So
So okay, so there's a lot of challenges that you have identified in the deaf community, and because you have seen firsthand what it feels like, to be a deaf person in Pakistan. Have you seen what it's like to be a deaf person abroad? What kind of facilities do they get, and what do you see is lacking in Pakistan right now? You said education. How can that be fixed? What are some areas where improvement can be had in education?
well, if you talk about deaf communities problems, it's same for all over the world. सिर्फ कुछ countries है जिन्होंने like they have facilities for deaf people, especially America. I would say America has developed their American Sign Language perfectly. They have good institutions. They're training their deaf people with skills like that. They even have deaf doctors who are completely deaf, but they're doctors. So look at their education level that they're giving. And one thing that they focused, it was creating these interpreters, right? बहुत अच्छे उन्होंने sign language interpreters. They had their institutions which are working on building capacity of interpreters and they develop their language very well. तो उस वजह से काफ़ी उनके development हुए. But if you look at पूरे दुनिया में तो mostly countries में ही मसला है. Even China, we have a lot of friends from China, and you would believe they're like, where you guys are doing amazing work, we want to come to Pakistan because there are no opportunities here, right? So this is like a common problem across the world. There are very few organizations who are working on that, working on, because it's a really tough job to train deaf people, especially when their language is not developed, right? So yeah, so in Pakistan, the Pakistan Sign Language is not well developed, I would say, or I would say that most people don't know, most of the signs. So yeah, that's the one challenge.
And you're saying that the American Sign Language Association is very developed, and their sign language is pars above what the sign language being used here.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
not know that. So, how can one introduce that sign language here? I mean, maybe collaborate with organizations.
We're working on that. We're working on collaborating with organizations, and there are also online platforms where you can learn sign language, right? So we are trying to do that as well, because it will take time to develop the Pakistan Sign Language. Yeah, and the use of it, right? Just developing is not the question. People should be able to use it and accept it, right? So it's a long process of at least, I would say, minimum 5 or 10 years. So before that, we should. This is what we've been doing meetings with the deaf community across the Pakistan, that we have to adopt American Sign Language first, and then later on we're gonna develop our. In the meantime, we're gonna develop our Pakistan Sign Language, because it's a multi-verse world. You can yeah.
And this is what DigiDeaf is doing. Tell us a little bit about the services offered under DigiDeaf. What does DigiDeaf do?
Yeah. So DigiDeaf. So it's not one thing. We're like, we sat down and we made this draft that we have to solve every problem of the deaf community, as much as we can. So their education, their skill development, their grooming, and then their job placements, right? And then this communication problem, to introduce and train more and more interpreters, because there are very few in Pakistan, and give them recreational activities so that they could have their lifestyle in a better way, so they could live better.
What kind of recreational activity?
Recreational, yeah, we do educational excursions to introduce them to the culture of Pakistan. We take them to museums and explain the history and all that. And we also are planning to do yoga, meditation, and then sports, of course. Yeah, these are something really. And we also invite our hearing people. We invite people from university, NUST वगैरह, कि वो भी आए हमारे साथ, so that they could see how they can now live together with the deaf people. Because that's the one thing that in our Pakistan, that deaf लोगों के लिए अलग schools बनाए गए हैं, right? So most of the people don't know, उनको पता ही नहीं होता कि deaf भी कोई चीज़ होती है, right? So जब वो देखते हैं पहली दफ़ा deaf को, they don't know how to react even. So but this should not be that way, right? Because they also have a part in the society. They deserve, because when agar this is what we've been having talks with the deaf community, that we should do talk with educationists to have their school system aligned, inclusive school system, right? Not separate, to so that they could live. You just need to have an interpreter in your school to make it inclusive, right? So how hard is that?
It'll help. It'll help get rid of the stigma,
Stigma and all
and
that,
the
right?
lack of awareness around.
Exactly.
Around,
And most people they don't like, you can say, they don't know how to react, of course, and then they're like, what is this, this a disability, or what is this a curse? There are a lot of stigmas, and people sometimes abuse that, and deaf people are so isolated. They're very isolated. So yeah, especially I would say up to technology ka time aa gaya, mobile phone, video calls and all that. But before that, it was horrible. Even when we visit to villages, remote areas in Pakistan, to hum realize hota hai कि deaf people who don't have a device or a phone, they're like so depressed, and when you look at them, you just feel like, why? Because there is no one around them to understand their feelings, right? So there's no one around them who would talk with them. They have no medium of expression. So yeah, it's terrible.
a lot of work to be done, and I'm
A
really
lot of work
glad
to
that you're working in this area. How can people support you in this cause? What kind of help are you looking to get from the community?
Well, okay, let's talk about this. Humne DigiDeaf, I would say, for myself and even for my sister, we've started this on a very early stage, right? Maybe abhi education complete nahi hai, but because I wanted to do something as fast, as quick as I can. So really, we need support. We do need support. We need support of technology. We need support of tech people, support of mediums. And NIC is supporting me a lot. I always come here, and a lot of people here are like awesome. So yeah, and also we need volunteers as well, yeah, of course, because it's an initial stage, so we need volunteers to run the show. And then also in generally, I would, to anyone who's listening to this podcast, I know, when you see a deaf person, you just go talk to him, because deaf people are like, why are not the hearing people coming and interacting with us? Because a lot of people are like ignoring them, right? So if you see a deaf person wherever you are, just go talk to him.
And if you don't know sign language, what is the best way to communicate? By typing maybe a message and showing it?
Typing, because education ka bahut masla hai, so deaf people don't know how to interact in typing as well in Pakistan. So, but you have to understand what sign language is. Sign language is just your expressions, your hand gestures, and your body language, right? So you can just go out and give a smile. Just give a smile, say, "You good?" You would say, "Yes, I'm good. Thank you." Like that, right? So all it's just anyone can do signs. It's no, but of course there are like words and all that, right? But basic jo cheezein hai, just so you can just give a smile, you just give us a gesture of support to the deaf people, and maybe learn sign language. I have this cousin of mine. He's I don't know, 10 or 11, or there's a guy, उसके पास में ही एक डेफ लड़का रहता है. So उसने उनसे पूरी साइन लैंग्वेज सीखी है, like complete. So I didn't knew that. I went there and I was like, how are you? And he said, I know sign language. I was like, what? How do you know sign language? So, but he did, right? So it's not something very difficult. It's easy. And we're also providing courses of sign language. So anyone who's wanting to learn sign language, we are like too open to guide you through, and we'd be more happy to make this society more and more inclusive. Yeah.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Touch with me? Well, you can just reach out to our website, digidef.com, or you can connect me on LinkedIn, Ehtisham Hussain. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So, Ehtisham, you're doing some fantastic work, and I'm really glad that our community has gotten a chance to meet you via this podcast today. I'm going to end today's session with a quick rapid fire round.
Yeah, I'm not ready for
You're
this.
not ready for this? That's the whole fun of
Let's
it.
do it.
That's the whole fun of it. So I'm going to ask you like just a quick couple of questions, and just give me the first answer that
Alright.
comes to you.
Okay.
So, Ehtisham, what's your favorite city?
Shahar. Oh yeah. Islamabad.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love Islamabad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is where your home's going to be. Alright. What is your favorite food?
Favorite food? Kadai.
Kadai? Oh,
Kadai.
all right.
Awesome, right?
An inspiring founder.
Inspiring founder.
Someone you learned from, aspire to be like.
I would say Elon Musk, because the failures that he tackled and everything, it's really
Persevered. He did.
persevere.
People didn't believe he could do it, but he did it. Spaceships that
Yeah.
re-land.
Yeah, of course, he had lost billions, but he did.
And who is your mentor right now?
Who is my mentor?
Best mentor.
My family, actually. My family, even especially my mother, because learned a lot from her. She used to do 3 jobs at once.
That's amazing.
Really, I learned a lot of work ethics from her.
All
Yeah.
right. Respect. What was your best mistake? Something that turned out really well in the end?
Best mistake and turned out really well.
Yeah. Something that you did wrong, but it turned out well.
Can we skip this?
We can skip that. Ehtisham, thank you so much for coming over to the show today. Really happy to have you.
Likewise.
Good luck. And I hope that you receive some support and connections after this podcast today.
I would be really happy, and thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's really amazing, and I like the work that you're doing.
Take care of yourself, Ehtisham. And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Till the next time. Thank you, and Allah Hafiz.